New satellite images have revealed that almost all of Greenland's surface ice has suddenly started melting. Now, as you can see, in just 4 days, the area of where the ice is melting has gone from 40% of the ice sheet to 97%. The change was so dramatic that scientists thought that they must have made a mistake. This scale of melting ice hasn't been seen since 1889, so what's causing this? Let's go to NASA scientist Thomas Wagner, who's in Washington, D.C. Mr. Wagner, what's going on here?
Yeah, what's happening is this. We had a really anomalous weather system develop over Greenland this year, which caused an unprecedented amount of melting. And to put this in perspective, the Greenland ice sheet is miles thick, and it's very, very high up in the middle. Think of being up on top of a mountain. It's usually really cold, but this year it got warm enough to melt all the way across it.
And is this a surprise? I mean, how could you have not known if you, all over the satellite images?
Well, what happened was that people started noticing the anomalous weather around the coastal areas. But what we do is you can't see the melt necessarily. You can almost think of it like if you looked over these places, they would be covered with snow, but there's actually no water in that snow. It's all ice. Now we're knowing that there was water in between those snow particles, but that's just at the upper reaches. At the lower reaches, there's so much melt that's forming rivers, ponds, and lakes, and it's even washing out bridges. There's so much melt.
Is this something that's likely to continue, and what sort of impact will it have on the sea, the environment?
Well, the big deal is this, and again, this shouldn't get lost. Greenland is losing a tremendous amount of ice. Globally, sea levels are rising about 3 millimeters a year, and at least a half a millimeter of that just comes from Greenland. And that's probably caused by ocean warming around Greenland, causing increased calving and also melt. This event, though, is just the surface layer, and it covers all of it, and we think that this probably is within natural variation at this point. Of course, if it happens again or happens repeatedly, then we'd have cause to really worry.
But isn't this something that happens on average every 150 years?
Sure, it is, and that's why we were pretty careful the way that we described this. This could really be just within the natural variation. Again, there were some really anomalous weather patterns this year. There was a higher pressure system over Iceland, and there was a lot of just warm air that wound up over the Greenland ice sheet.
Should people in Iceland, should Iceland's neighbors, Greenland's neighbors be getting concerned? Can this have quite a dramatic impact on the way they live?
Well, probably not, because we think this is, again, think in the 1930s in the U.S. it got so warm there were dust bowls across the country. The fact is, weather and climate, there are a lot of changes that happen in the short term, but what we talk about really with climate is the long-term change. Long-term, though, it does look like the Earth's polar regions are warming up. It's just that this one event may not be associated with that.
Okay, Thomas Wagner, good to talk to you, NASA program scientist in Washington, D.C.